So what is up, guys? My name is Donny from nextlevel.esports.com, the #1 platform for esports coaches and team development to help you reach that next level by getting the people side of esports right. Today we have a full lecture of the 4 pillars of coaching to get you a good understanding of what elements are required in order to develop yourself as a coach or perhaps a player if you're watching this clip or are here within the lecture environment as well on the Next Level Esports Discord server. So this is about the team environment to see what kind of pillars is needed to build a good foundation for your team. Of course, there's more under the horizon always. There's more details, there's more expertise, more niches to go through. But it is, let's say, a basic framework for beginner coaches to know where to start, and also advanced and experienced coaches to understand what is needed and what needs to be maintained and what can be developed. To also have, let's say, a 360 degrees type of feedback for yourself, where you stand in terms of the fundamentals of coaching and how you can move forward to be more value and be more impactful for yourself. So let's jump into the lecture of today. So the goal of today is to gain insight into the 4 pillars of coaching and how to maintain and develop each pillar. So here we have the 4 pillars. So the topics for today, it's divided in 4 segments. So the first one is structure and clarity, because you need the structure, you need to be communicating clear with what you want within your team in order for everyone to get on the same page and to move ahead. Number 2, the pillar is stimulation and motivation. Even though you are working with, let's say, the best athletes of the world or just amateurs, everyone needs praise, everyone needs stimulation and motivation to move forward, but also recognize the individual part of it. And that is pillar number 3. That is the individual attention that you have to be aware that every individual, every player, every staff member has different wants and needs in order to perform at the highest level. So to get connected with the individual, not only with the team, is very important to get success. And then we come to the 4th pillar, and that is to transfer control. So many teams or coaches start off with a structured environment, but over time, the structure or control that sometimes players or coaches want with how they want to play, you also need to let go of a bit of control to get the team and fluidity of the team and performance going, so people can make their own decisions, be part of the development process, how maybe a sort of the schedule works. So that is what we're gonna deep dive into this lecture right now. So these are the 4 pillars of coaching. So let's dive into the first one, because they're pretty much of sheets that we have to go to. So I have to speed a little bit things up. But if you got questions, be sure just to drop it in the hashtag lecture workshop text, or the people that are here, just like you can also just like interrupt me and ask a question. Or if you're watching this the recording, then just comment down below if anything is unclear or you want more, let's say, context about anything. So with no further ado, let's jump into the first pillar of coaching, and that is the structure and clarity. So even though structure and clarity, it more consists of 2 things. So the structure, what you do as a coach, what do you bring in, the things that you want to be sure that is, let's say, if you are a castle, the walls around the team that are, let's say, the borders, what is allowed, what isn't, from your perspective. So what is the culture that you envision for yourself, so you're also more so a leader person into that regard within your team. And the second part is the agreements and what you do together as a team. So even though you are in control and more in the leadership position of most coaches, because players look up to the coach as he's a leadership figure, or at least a leadership role, but you also have to make agreements. So it's not only, let's say, a tyrannical hierarchy, but also meritocracy. So that means the organization becomes a little bit flat, so everyone has their own opinion, so they can make agreements for what is good for them and to maintain a safe and developmental environment. So those are the 2, let's say, focus points. So the first one is the structure part. So I make it very basic in this, but there's a lot of it behind it. We don't go really into the details that much, but to give you a good grasp of a concept, what you can understand by having preparation and limit your goals and the routines. And the question for you just to think about for a couple of seconds is, how good do you prepare your coaching sessions? Or if you are a manager, how well do you prepare certain, let's say, conversations with the players or with the staff members? Or if you're a CEO or whatever your role may be, how good do you prepare? So, and the second one is limit your goals. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't have bold goals, or you shouldn't have a lot of goals to work on during the season or during the tournament or any competition that you're doing together with your team. That's not what this means. That means is limit your goals in what you focus on. Because what I see a lot of times is there are, let's say, people just play the game, and then after the game, they're just pop up all goals and all the things that needs to be focused on, and then it gets diluted. And if you have focus on everything, but where do you have focus on? You basically have focus on nothing. So it's good to limit your goals, to laser focus on what you want and what you need, so you can, that is also a piece of structuring the way you coach and the way you behave with one another, so you can build, let's say, the building blocks onto a bigger structure for yourself, and to increase the success rate of your team in the long run. So that is the goal. And also to maintain structure is to implement routines. So that doesn't really have to be, let's say, exercise routines or like things that you feel like as routines, just like brushing your teeth. This is not what I'm talking about. It's about, let's say, if you're having a practice day, do you have the same set schedule, etc.? Do you have the same way of operating review, or when you're watching a video on demand back, or do you have specific goals or approach that is almost the same every time you do this, so you are predictable? So this is some things, and then think for yourself like, okay, do I do this? Yes, maybe. Maybe you do some parts, but maybe you can improve something, and just be aware of it, what you feel like, okay, this is something that I can improve. So to give a little bit more context about the structure. So the first one is preparation. So do you prepare your scrims and practices? When things didn't go as planned, was there a clear defined goal? Because what I see, no matter if it's League of Legends, Rocket League, or CSGO, what I see is just coaches let the team play because they have the booked scrim at, let's say, 8 p.m., 8 o'clock in the evening, and then the players hop in 5 minutes before, some even, let's say, just on the deadline when they hop into the server, and instantly the scrim starts. There are no goals, nothing to prepare, only maybe a couple of sentences bouncing back and forth, but more so the social part, and not really digging down or having the laser focus on specific goals. So the coach can really take a lot of structure and focus to build, let's say, the building blocks of the team in a consistent and structured way to prepare. What goals do you want to prepare? How are you going to work on those goals? So for example, if you're working with communication goals, or you feel like, oh, my team is bad at communicating because there's too much noise, or they're too silent, etc. How are you going to work on that? Is it just like, oh, you let it play and just give feedback? Because that is what I see, let's say 80% of the time, what I see when I work with teams on the backside, and when I talk to coaches, and they don't really, let's say, prepared, not even a couple of notes. Some do it, and that is really powerful, but I believe there's so much value to be had to be prepared, because if things change, or just like the game evolves in some way, it's more so about winning, let's say, the scrim or practice oftentimes, and not about developing intellect about how to approach the game, or to let's say, define one thing that you want to improve for, let's say, communication, or let's say a rotation, or a different strategy that you want to try. It's all about loose, and then Because if there's no structure on that part, then it all gets diluted, and where's the real, let's say, development of the team? So this is a very important part. So then second, what I just mentioned as well, if you want to have a good laser focus on your goals, pick one up to a maximum of 3 main goals for the scrim or practice, because your players know what to focus on and what they will learn. So if you're just like, okay guys, even though if you prepared it, let's say you want to prepare something and you feel like, okay, we need to work on the communication, I'm gonna work on this, like that. But if your players don't know that you are watching them on, let's say, the communication part, or how they are behaving with one another, or what you should expect, or what you want them to do, then it's misaligned. Then there's not really that much effectiveness. It's still better than having no plan or no preparation at all, but still limit your goals to 1, 2, 3. So, and also communicate that with your players so they know what to focus on and not the results. Always focus on the way to get the results, because winning or losing is always a consequence of the effort and the things that are happening before the game is won or lost. So that is number 2. And then 3 is the routines. So the main thing of routines is be predictable. And that is not like, maybe like me, sometimes I'm a bit of an improvising personality from time to time. So a lot of this about the lecture just popping up in my head as well. But some people really want to be prepared as well. But sometimes when I'm working with teams, at least a couple of years ago, or when I was a teacher, it is sometimes really hard to be predictable, because you have the urge to, let's say, oh yeah, we can do that, or we can change this. Yeah, we can change the goal a little bit, this and that. And it can be very effective in that moment. But if you do that constantly, then the players unconsciously or consciously don't know what is going to happen next, because it just might be able to change. For example, when you are playing with a team and you don't have a set schedule on what days and what times you want everyone to be there. Because if you have to ask, let's say every week, if you're gonna practice or scrim 2 or 4 times this week, it can get a little bit of stress between the players, or unconsciously, because they have to put in their mental energy to know what is going to happen. And this is a really important part of, let's say, a manager or a coach, or maybe an in-game leader, to know about being predictable, so everyone can just relax and know what is going to happen. So some couple of examples are, have the same walkthrough before scrim. So, hey guys, we practiced this before this last week. Their focus points is A, B, C, and I believe that we can beat it. These are the statistics. This is what we are going for. Then we do, let's say, the team yell, and then we go into the game, or maybe some mental preparation, but always the same routine in order to get everyone into let's say, the same state of mind that you want them to be in order to perform. And this can have many different setups and many different ways, but you have to be predictable in some way that fits you and your team in order to perform. So figure out what you want in order to have routines. So always the same as a review, or when you're done with the game, take a break for 5 minutes, stretch your legs, grab some water, grab a snack. Always have an open discussion at the end of the review for, let's say, points that are not covered, or between something that the players just want to talk about, that you schedule some time in it, or just like regular preparation. So routines and being predictable is super, super important. So it takes a lot of stress, unconscious stress mostly, away from the players, and they know what to expect, so they know how to behave, and also when to focus their energy. Because if you're focusing, let's say, changing up your goals all the time, or sometimes it will take 3 hours, and you didn't say that it will take 3 hours and the other time it's 5 minutes, the players want to know how long things will take, etc. So the more predictable you are, let's say 95% of the time it's good, the more predictable you are. So this is about the structure part. So then we get to the agreements part. So I'm kind of speeding up in this lecture. So just if you're watching the recording, just pause, take notes, or rewatch it again. Or if you're within this lecture, just ask a question. Yeah, within the hashtag lecture workshop text. So, but let's talk about the agreement. So first, I made it, let's say, a sort of a marketing model. I thought it would fit in this. It's about see, think, do, care. So if you want to make agreements with your teammates and with everyone involved, as well as you as a coach, your staff members, and everyone, first see what you are foreseeing in the future that need agreements. What are your must-haves? So before you are, let's say, confronting your team with, okay, we're going to talk about agreements, think about, foresee what you need. And this can rely a lot on your previous or past experiences. For example, what you need in order to start today, or how we approach, like, let's say, the relationship between another. Do we support each other, or is it open? Do we expect to spend time next out of the server or out of the scrims to build a relationship, etc. So what are things, what are some things that are important for you as a coach, manager, CEO, or just player? And then think about what you want. What are your must-haves? And then the second part is think, why do you want to make agreements? Think about those things that you foresee, why you want those agreements. So this goes easier if you have more experience over, let's say, the seasons or over the years, because you try to, let's say, recognize who you are as well. And also know, you will learn who you are and what you need over the years, etc. So the more you have experience, the more easy it become to make agreements and why you want those. So, but also think about, why do we want to make agreements? Is it just because you want to make rules or are afraid of something, or is it beneficial for something? So then you go towards the team and then you do something. So in the next sheet, I will show you an exercise that you can do that is really beneficial, especially at the start of the season, but you can do it in the middle as well if that is something that you are struggling with, or you feel like, oh, this can be valuable as well. And that is to make agreements together with your team. And be cautious and be aware that agreements are not rules. Rules are the things, let's say, the staff made in front of the team. They have no say in it. So these are the rules. Agreements are a collaboration of the players and everyone involved, that everyone backs up, basically. And also, what does it bring the players in a team? So, and also about the consequences. So what do? We don't want, we make an agreement that everyone is on time. So also formulate it in a positive way. So there's also a different way in positive talking, but we don't go too much in that. But one example is, if you want to make rules, describe them as positively and actionable as possible. So you don't want to make rules like, we don't want to be late at scrims, but you change it up to everyone is on time, well on time, before we start with the practice or with our schedule, etc. So it's more positive. And also talk about the consequences. So when someone is late at the scrims, is there maybe a fine that you agreed upon of, let's say, 5 or 10, or I don't know how severe you want it to be, the 5 to 10 euros, or that they have to do push-ups or whatever. This is something that everyone agrees on. And if you are, let's say, in a gaming house, just let's build up a document and let everyone sign it. So to make it more official and more, let's say, physical. And then the last part is the care phase, to save the agreement, because you only do an exercise and you put it in a box somewhere and save it on your computer is not really beneficial, because you need to see it from time to time. You need to repeat it a lot of times as well in front of your team. And you as a coach or leader or manager or owner just need to take charge in this, especially in the beginning. So especially in the beginning, they are looking at you as a coach, what is expected. And if the coach or the leader says or does what he says that we're gonna do. So it's also a bit of a taking care of this culture and agreements that we have made, and hold each other accountable for this. So I see there All right, thumbs up, good stuff. All right, so then we move on to the exercise of the do. So this is an easy exercise that you can do and that is very practical and powerful in the beginning of the season, but also in the middle of the season that you can do with your team or with everyone involved in the organization if you feel like, okay, this can be something that will benefit us over the long run or to get some structure and clarity going on. Because we're still talking about the first pillar, right? So making agreements together. So you make 2 lists and then you divide the group with the staff or the coach and the players. And the players will discuss on their own terms what they need and what they find important, because they might see like, okay, the reviews need to be about the game, there needs to be a structure, or it doesn't have to take long. We agree as a team that we want to, let's say, proceed and learn in a different way, or that we want enough individual attention. So you will see and notice, instead of, let's say, experiencing what they want over time in the weeks or months to come, you give them an opportunity to also be independent of the coaching staff and to trigger them into their thinking and also feel them involved into the culture and environment, that they have a say, or at least can say how they feel and think about how things should be inside the team. And they all agree upon as a team, and the same happens as well for the coaching staff. So both see and write down what they want. So maybe the coach staff just wants to be like, okay, I find it important that we are open and that we take on criticism, or that it's not only me trying to solve problems, but we expect or want agreements that the players also want to learn. So we sort of expect or agree that it's not only the coaches or the leaders or the staff job to imply knowledge and to ask questions, but also vice versa. So get this exercise going and see what kind of things are, let's say, boiling up from the surface, from the unconscious of the players. They can have discussions and you will see how much they know and think, or give you a good, let's say, a framework of how the team should behave and what is allowed, what isn't, so you can get together and then make the final agreements. Because sometimes there can be 10, sometimes it can be 40 things, and 40 things are not really, let's say, practical, because it's too many to, let's say, remember. So you want to, let's say, narrow it down by, let's say, a couple of rules, let's say roughly about 10, that is more easy to remember, that are the most important ones. So with that being said, this is an exercise to get more structure and clarity from the beginning on, or in the middle of the season, if that fits your context at this moment. So then we continue the train. Just keep continuing the train. So some 7 benefits for having agreements. So also to have a bit of more awareness and insight why the importance of agreements. So you don't want to imply rules only, or you want to have a little set time in order to get everything together. So the first one is clarity. So players know what is expected of them. It gives peace of mind. So if we agree that there's a set schedule, or we agree how we behave, it gives peace of mind. So, okay, I feel more safe, I feel more at ease. I can focus on my gameplay more instead of looking over my shoulder what my, let's say, other teammate or the coach or the manager is doing. So that is really good. So it also benefits the fun, because good agreements help being together run more smoothly. If everyone is on time, etc., then there is also time for more fun. Because if people are late, that is not fun, and it's, let's say, interferes with the developing process, and then you get all these types of little unconscious irritating things under your skin. So you don't want that to happen. So having agreements is beneficial for the fun as well. Third one is safety, respect towards each other, and more positive behavior, because they know the framework where they can move in, and they are very independent and move free, but they feel safe because it's a, let's say, a culture that feels protected. That is the care part, that everyone holds each other accountable, at least at the start, for sure, the leader. So you as a coach, obviously. And then for knowing boundaries, it's all common. It's all, let's say, overlapping the things what I'm saying, but it's important to, let's say, define a little bit how, so you can get a feel of, so you have more thoughts in how to operate it in this way for yourself. And then 5 is independency. So it helps the players to initiate more because they know where they can go, what is expected, let's say, of a strategical coach or the positional coach or the head coach, etc. So if this is all clear and the structure is there, then people know where to use every piece of information, every piece of value out of the organization or the whole staff or team as a whole. Number 6, less conflicts, because if you made agreements that we are not toxic or we are open to feedback, you can just go down, grab your, let's say, contract or speak about like, oh, this is what we agree to. We are not here to personally attack everyone, but we want to open up and sometimes have constructive criticism conversation in order to develop as a player, as a staff member, and also as a human being. So this really helps to lower the unnecessary arguments and conflicts, and also a bit of a toxic environment, of course. So number 7 is then better listeners, because if they know what is expected, let's say your review always takes a maximum of 25 minutes, for example, then they know I have to concentrate and focus my attention for 20 to 25 minutes. After that, I'm always released. I can do my thing. I can grab a snack. I can walk, or I'm free. I'm just gonna join my friends. But if it's not there, then obviously they can get frustrated because sometimes, you know, like, oh, how long is it gonna take? Or you get those irritating questions subconsciously, like, how long is it gonna take? Do we need more, or are we done now? And you feel like, oh yeah, but we're here with the team, and especially the coaches are like, yeah, but we're here there together. But you also have to be aware that sometimes players can be mentally exhausted, so you have to schedule in your time, be predictable, etc., so they can also be better listeners. So it's a vice versa reaction, so everyone can benefit. So with that said, I'm gonna take a sip of water. Always nice. So in this regard, if you're watching this or if you are in the lecture workshop text channel, just write this down for yourself by hearing these examples and going through the structure and clarity part. Like, where do you stand? Do you stand at the 1 with a lot of potential, so you have a lot of room to grow? Or is it already at excellent? Or maybe it's a 6, it's a 5, it's a 4, it's a 7, it's 8. You decide, you know for yourself how you feel, like, okay, I'm doing this pretty good, or yeah, I'm doing some things, but by hearing some exercises or things that I can do, I feel like, I think I can improve still a lot. So see where it fits you, what number you would give yourself, and then at the end of the lecture, we combine it all, and then we get to a summary of your own, let's say, 4 pillars of coaching and where a lot of potential is to be held and what you are good or perhaps great at. So always good and nice to know.